The Cinderace raids are finally here, so now we know exactly what to expect. For those that don't know, Cinderace is now available in 7-star raids in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet from now until January 1st at midnight UTC, so which would be about 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So let's break down the Cinderace and what it actually has and what it can do. So we know the 4 main moves that it has is High Jump Kick, Pyro Ball, Acrobatics, and Iron Head. So yes, it does have Iron Head, so fairies aren't going to be your best bet here. Also acrobatics, so it does have flying move, but that's not really, none of our attackers that anybody was planning on bringing is really going to be affected by that. Iron Head's really going to be the main kicker that's going to potentially push out a lot of the fairy attackers like Sylveon, Fluttermane, and even Azumarill. Even though Azumarill would resist, well, this would be 1-times instead of super effective on Azumarill. So just listen, don't bring Azumarill as your first option. There's better options. So those are the moves it has, but we also know that it has Bulk Up as one of its extra moves. It's not like Charizard where it had like 8 total moves that it could use. The only extra move that it has is Bulk Up, and it starts off every battle with 1 Bulk Up, so you got to prepare for that. And it will try to use Bulk Up many, many more times throughout the battle. So the number one thing you want to do on whatever Pokemon you bring, or if you're doing this with a group of friends, somebody needs to taunt on turn 1. You need to stop Cinderace from bulking up repeatedly, because otherwise his attack will be so high it won't matter what you have or who you bring. He's going to beat the crap out of you eventually. So you will die. So make sure you use taunt so he doesn't bulk up ridiculously. What Cinderace itself does, it's not that complex of a raid. He's just going to keep attacking you over and over again if he can't bulk up. So that's all you got to do. So you got to kill him before he kills you. So what we have found, the number 1 attacker, and I've seen people use it, and I've done damage calculations, and I've used it myself to solo, and the winner is going to be Armarouge. Armarouge, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. It does need to be Psychic Tera type, so if you caught a Sharkadet and evolved it, you will need to change it to Psychic Tera type, and that is because it'll do even more damage with its Psychic moves when you Terrastalize, because you will be Terrastalizing, because you're more than likely not going to be able to one-shot this. Maybe if we find out a one-shot strat later, but right now we don't have one. And you're going to want to give it a held item like Twisted Spoon, or Expert Belt, something that'll do 1.2 times. Twisted Spoon's fine, because we're just going to use Psychic move. So the moves you're going to want to use is, the most important move is Expanding Force, because Expanding Force, when you have Psychic Terrain up, will do even more damage. So you're also going to be running Psychic Terrain on this, unless somebody else in your party has Psychic Terrain. And then another move we're going to use is Acid Spray, because Acid Spray will hit through the shield, because it has a secondary effect to lower the target's special defense harshly, which harshly is 2 stages. So 3 acid sprays, and it's got -6 special defense. And then obviously, if you're soloing this, you want to use taunt if nobody else has taunt. If you have other people in your party and you don't need taunt, you could use like Clear Smog if you wanted to clear his attacks, or even something like Reflect. Yeah, so you could either run, if you were doing this in a party, you don't need taunt and somebody else can taunt, then you could do Clear Smog or a Reflect. Ideally, if you're doing this with a group, somebody else would also have those, so they would be the more support, and you'd just be doing attacks. So that's what you would do. And then obviously, as you see here, you want to make sure that you are running this with a Modest Nature, and then you're going to want to max out its special attack EVs and its defensive EVs, because Cinderace is purely a physical attacker, so get those defensive EVs up as high as it'll go. Should get them up to 299 defense, can't go any higher than that unless you give it a plus defensive nature, which isn't really necessary. And that's about it. That's going to be your number 1 attacker. If you're the attacker, then this would be the Pokemon to bring for you. And you could probably do 2, maybe 3 attackers, I mean, if you wanted to, but I mean, 1 or 2 Armarouges would probably be ideal. And then you would also want to bring some kind of support Pokemon if you're doing this with a group. And probably the number 1 support Pokemon is going to be Slowbro, because this Slowbro is not built properly at all, but Slowbro is Water Psychic, so it'll work very, very well in this as well, because he does not have Electro Ball or anything, so nothing is going to damage this at all. And then you would just build this thing out pretty much the same way. If you wanted to build it more as a support, you could do HP and defense for its EVs instead of special attack. but you definitely want to make sure you max out its defense. It already has really high defense anyway. So I have, like I said, I haven't built this at all. Its ability doesn't really matter in this case because none of Slowbro's potential abilities are useful in this raid. So own tempo, whatever you have, it doesn't matter. But you could give Slowbro a bunch of different moves. It can't learn Expanding Force, but it can learn Psychic, so it can do damage if it needs to. But you could also put Heal Pulse on this, so you could use Slowbro as a healer if you needed to heal your teammates. So that's another option that you could have. Slowbro's not as useful, but you know, it's there. Now bear with me on this one. The third Pokemon that I'm suggesting we could potentially use would be a Goodra. And you can make this a Psychic Tera type if you wanted to, if you're going to attack with it. But I would build the Goodra more for support. Goodra is one of the better Pokemon in this generation that can learn Life Dew. So you could use Goodra, just max out its defense and its HP, and just spam Life Dew. You get like 16 PP with Life Dew and just keep your entire team alive. That would be its main job. It can also learn Acid Spray, so you could help lower defense if you needed to. And it can learn Charm, so you can lower Cinderace's attack by 2 stages if you needed to. Also, like I said, if you give it the Psychotera type, you can give Goodra Terra Blast, and then it'll also be able to do damage because it's got a decently high special attack. This one actually has a bad nature, and it still has a decently high special attack. So you could, I mean, I wouldn't build it as a special attacker, but you know, you could put Terra Blast on it if you needed to have an attacking move. Acid Spray, Terra Blast, Life Dew, and Charm would be the moveset I would put on a Goodra. So that it's not really meta, but you know, it's an option. It's mainly there to be a healer and use Life Dew. So I was looking for something that could heal the whole entire party. It's the only thing I came up with that was useful. Obviously, we know Chansey and Blissey have it. They're gonna get destroyed by Cinderace, especially with a high jump kick. Yeah, don't bring those. Don't do it. And then obviously, if you wanted another attacker, I'm personally not going to use Ceruledge, but you know, a lot of people recommend Ceruledge, pretty much the same build as Armarouge, but you would be using like Psycho Cut instead because it doesn't get Expanding Force either. And it would be immune to fire and fighting moves, but it's still going to get hit with acrobatics and Iron Head if it uses it. So it's another move, and it can also learn Taunt, so if you needed another good attacker, you could use this. But also, the only downside to using Ceruledge instead of Armarouge is it's a physical attacker. So if you're using Pokemon with Acid Spray, that's not going to help Ceruledge. So Ceruledge is not as good in a group setting, unless you're just using it alone and Swords Dancing 3 times or something, but it's another good Pokemon that you could use. If you need another support option, possibly like a Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl is always good, obviously. Light Screen Reflect, Fake Tears, all that good stuff. So you could put a lot of good stuff on here. Obviously, don't use Fake Out. Fake Out's not going to work against Cinderace, but you know. And obviously, last but certainly not least, another good support Pokemon, Indeedee Female. Because obviously, everyone knows if you played Sword and Shield, hidden ability Psychic Surge. It'll set the Psychic Terrain when it enters the battle, so then you don't even need Psychic Terrain on your other Pokemon. I mean, well, you still might want to have somebody with it because it's going to expire after a certain, like, what's it, 4 or 5 turns? So, but yeah, Indeedee, always another good support Pokemon. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Long story short, just build an Armarouge. Armarouge. I have no idea. I still don't know how to pronounce it. We need an anime so it can tell us how to pronounce these Pokemon names ASAP. But yeah, if you don't have Armarouge and you want another, yeah, if you don't have access to Scarlet to get an Armarouge or have a friend that can get you one, sure, just try Ceruledge instead. Probably not as good, but yeah, just do that instead. But yeah, I've rambled on here long enough. Let me know what kind of Pokemon you guys are using against Cinderace. If you've already beaten it, what was your best strategy that you have found? Let me know down in the comments below. And like always keep training and never grow up. Crumber out. Bye.